Okay, hello. I'm attempting to go live both on YouTube and on Facebook. So we will see how this goes. This is why I'm running a little bit behind because I'm just trying to do this in two places. So, welcome. Thank you for joining me. And wow, it's been really a beautiful thing to have this online community during this time. So as I mentioned, I'm live streaming both on YouTube and on Facebook this evening. So we'll see how that goes. Um, I figured it'd be better to try to get this out more places so more people can get an opportunity to potentially create a little bit more sense of safety during these times. Thank you for joining. Yeah, thanks for being here. So, this is a purely virtual class today. So, questions can be posted on the comment section. Now, with YouTube, I'm not as familiar with the way it works. So, if you comment on YouTube, I might have to come back to those questions. But here on Facebook, I'm able to address them right away. So normally this class is in person, and when you join online, you're kind of auditing. But today, you're um, you're live with me, so I'll answer your questions in real time. All right. So let's begin by just taking a few minutes to settle in together. All right. Oh, and I should also say I'm out of my quarantine. Um, I was quarantined in my room because of a possible exposure, and we got the news that um, that person I was waiting on was negative. So that's good news. I'm still socially isolating, but I'm no longer stuck in one room, which is nice. So for anyone who is wondering about that, that's that update. Okay, so let's take a few minutes and we'll start to settle in together. So finding a comfortable position, whatever feels good for you. This can be sitting in a chair, this can be lying down, this can be standing. And we're all going to take some nice deep breaths together. And as we do this, I just want you to tune into the fact that even though we're not together in person, we're all doing this together. Just taking a deep breath into your belly and an exhale. Breathing in. One more nice big inhale all together, breathing in. Whew. Letting it go. Now I want to invite you to bring in any little bits of movement that your body wants to do. Does your body want to roll the shoulders a bit or roll the neck a bit? Is there a ha or a that wants to happen? What is your body needing right now? So let's give your body a bit of what it's needing right now. Meditation, yes, is about sitting still. That's part of it. But what I want to invite today is really creating a sense of safety and resource and comfort in your body. And so if that means a little bit of movement wants to come in, please, by all means. So, what a wild, wild time we're in. All of us on this planet, all together. What an intense time. And it's a time that potentially brings us together, even though we're socially isolated right now. Potentially, this time brings us together because it's all of us that are going through this together. And one of the ways we can help with that experience of unification rather than further separation during this time is to be regulating our own systems, to be creating a sense of okayness and safety in our own systems, so that that's the energy we're putting out in the world. And so that's the place from which we are um, expressing from and engaging with others from. And each of us has that ability to create a sense of safety within ourselves. The very first thing I introduce is resource. Resource as borrowed from Peter Levine's somatic experiencing. So, finding something where there is not a problem, finding a place within yourself, potentially, where it doesn't hurt, where it doesn't feel anxious, where it doesn't feel afraid. Now, resource can also be external. We can look at external sites and experience external sounds as a way of not being so tangled up in our internal experience. But what I want to start with is creating that sense of resource within the body. There are times when it seems that all we're experiencing physically is pain and anxiety and fear. And it can seem like there's nothing safe in the body. Just gonna fix this here. Still figuring out this two-way live stream. So it can seem like, for example, when I've been dealing with massive amounts of physical pain, it can seem like there is nothing in the body that feels okay. But I can tell you from my personal experience that there always is. There's always something to go to where the intensity and the pain or the suffering is not occurring. So at one point, and I've shared this story before, but at one point I was being rolled into a hospital, into an ER, and turned out later that I had a bleeding stomach. And at the same time, I had a bunch of other symptoms firing off, like a migraine and extreme nausea and all of this stuff. So it was an intense amount of physical discomfort. And because of the practice of resource, what I did is I put my attention on my feet. So I'm on like the hospital gurney getting rolled in, and I'm focusing on my feet. And now every other second, I'm being pulled into the pain and to the intensity of what I'm experiencing. But then because of the practice, I'm able to go back to the feet and just put my attention there where there is no problem. There was no migraine in my feet. There was no bleeding stomach in my feet. It was just my feet. And in fact, I found they felt quite good. They were pretty relaxed. There was sort of a nice, sort of comfortable hum, vibratory experience in the feet. And so that's sort of an extreme example of how resource works for me. Another example, and this is where I learned about resource, was in trauma therapy. And the idea is when you're experiencing something intense, an intense trigger, for example, you find something that is not associated with that in your body and you put your attention there. And by doing so, the trigger gets to process, but you're not overwhelming yourself by just like digging into it and being stuck in it. You're able to have a little bit of space so it can wind down. And so, anybody that's sat with me or read my writing knows that trauma is part of my story. And um, there was a time when, if I was triggered, I would go into a full PTSD response. So my heart would be pounding. I would get nauseous, even throw up. I would have all kinds of weird digestive things happen. My arms and legs would become cold because all the blood was rushing to my major organs because I actually thought I was going to die. And that could be just like a tiny trigger, like, you know, I feel slightly insecure about something in my relationship, and then bam, right? So this was almost a decade ago now when I started doing really targeted work on that. And I'm happy to say that that doesn't happen anymore. That's not my experience. It's a completely different experience. And it's one of my sort of greatest accomplishments in my life is getting to a place where that no longer occurs. And a big part of that was the resource practice, was learning to go to something where the trigger was not, to go to something that wasn't activated and painful and scary. So these are several examples of how resource has worked for me in my life. Now, right now, everybody to some extent is freaked out. So there is a kind of intensity going on, and it is contagious, right? Like, one of your family members gets really freaked out, then you get really freaked out, then a friend gets freaked out, and we're all just like freaking each other out, right? And there's reason to be concerned right now. This is a serious thing going on. But do we more skillfully attend to what needs to be done from a place of freak out, from a place of trigger, from a place of a completely dysregulated system? Or do we respond more skillfully, coming from a place where we are um, resourced, where we feel safe within ourselves, where we are not in fight, flight, freeze? I would say the latter, right? I would say, is that right? The latter? Yeah. I would say coming from a regulated system is going to help us make more skillful decisions about what's best for ourselves, for our families, for our bodies, for the world. And so this practice of resource is something that I think is incredibly important right now. And I think it's important to do in a formal way, to sit down and to focus on safety and a sense of resource in the body. And it's also important to do it throughout our day. So let's say you're reading the latest news story about how many people are affected at this point. And you start to get that heartbeat racing and you start to think, wait, is my throat sore? Do I have a cough? And you start to get a little anxious, a little worked up, or you look at the news about the stock market and that starts to get you a little anxious and a little dysregulated. What you can do right in that moment, right as this is occurring, you can find something in the body that feels okay, something that feels safe, or at the very least, something that feels neutral. So that's what we're going to do today as a practice. And then it's something that I want you to bring in to your day to day this next week as everything that's unfolding unfolds. To be able to keep returning to something that feels safe, grounded, pleasurable, or at the very least, neutral. So let's practice this together. And go ahead and settle into a posture that's comfortable for you. And taking a nice deep breath and closing your eyes if you'd like. We're going to start by inviting some relaxation into the body. So I want you to bring your attention to the top of your head. And I want you to start to draw in a sense of relaxation to the top of your head. And drawing that relaxation down into your forehead, your eyebrows, and the space between your eyebrows. Relaxing, softening. And as we continue to relax through the body, I want you to really feel the sensations of relaxation. And I want you to notice how there's a resource in that. There's a comfort in that. There's a pleasure in that. And when you find places in the body where relaxation is not possible, rather than judging that or trying to fight it, I want you to just relax around the tension. letting go of resistance to the tension, allowing it to be what it is as you relax in all the areas that are able to relax. Moving your attention down to your mouth and your jaw, inviting the mouth and the jaw to relax and soften. Maybe the mouth drops open a little as you release the jaw. And continuing to relax down into the neck and the shoulders, releasing and relaxing your shoulders, softening down both of your arms and into your hands. Relaxing into your chest, into your upper back, softening and relaxing down into the solar plexus, into the mid back, relaxing down into the lower abdomen, letting the belly be soft, and relaxing into your lower back. Inviting that relaxation into the pelvic area, to the seat, to the hips widening, softening around the tailbone, pelvic floor relaxing, relaxing into both of your legs, into your feet. And from here, I want you to start to scan through the body and find a place that feels best. It could be there is some area in the body that feels really relaxed, even pleasurable. Or maybe for you right now, it's just about finding a neutral sensation. Maybe it's your butt or your thighs, the heaviness of that part of your body. Maybe your feet. Maybe there's a warm, pleasant tingle in the hands. Choosing a sensation in your body that can be a resource for now. And this might change. The one place that you go right now, it might be somewhere else next time you sit down to do this, or even in a few minutes from now. So let's start with whatever's occurring to you as the place in your body that feels best right now. Place your attention there. Your physical awareness dropping in to this resource in your body. Each time you're pulled away into the mind or pulled away into a sensation that doesn't feel good, I want you to gently and without any judgment bring your attention back to resource, back to something that does feel good or at least neutral. And I want you to notice how you are able to do this. You are able to move your attention to something that is non problematic or even pleasant. And it might be challenging at first. It might be challenging to keep returning your attention to what feels good, but it becomes easier and easier with practice. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're practicing. You don't need to do this perfectly. When you notice you've been pulled away, celebrate that moment. It's a little awakening. You recognize you've been pulled into an unconscious state. And gently, kindly bringing your attention back to resource, back to what feels good in your body. Again and again, returning to what feels good, what feels pleasant or neutral in your body. And if the place you're focusing on ceases to be a resource, then move to another place in the body that is a resource. If you feel like you're trying really hard, see if you can let it be a little bit easier. For many of us, we're in a mode of figuring out right now. And we're in a mode of figuring out when actually we have no idea what's happening next. And so our minds are kind of spinning a bit. And so I want this to be something that feels as easy as possible. So when you get pulled away into thought, be gentle with yourself. Gently come back to something that feels good in the body. Let go of any harshness, any overexertion. Let it be simple. Let it be easy. So, this is the basic practice that I think is really important for us all to have. Let's take a few more minutes with it. Finding something that feels good or even just neutral in the body and having that be the object of focus. It's as simple as that. Anytime you're pulled away, returning. Good. Now, if your eyes are closed, I want to invite you to stay focused on resource, but slowly start to open your eyes. So, just letting in a little bit of light. And if you disconnect from that feeling of resource in your body, close your eyes again and reconnect. And then again, start to slowly open the eyes. So you're staying connected with something that feels like a resource, something that feels good in your body while the eyes are open. So this is the beginning of bringing this practice of resource into daily life, into action in the moment. Okay? So I invite you to just take a look around your space as you keep reconnecting with this sense of resource in your body. And at any time, if you get disconnected from that feeling of resource, just go ahead and close the eyes again. reconnect with something in the body that feels good or at least neutral, and then open the eyes again, reconnecting with the sights of the space that you're in. So, from here, what I'd invite you to do, you can try this out after our session, is take a look at the news, for example, while connecting to resource. So, the next time you go and you look at the latest numbers, I think it was the last number I saw was 3,000 in the US. Can you do your research, do your news reading while connecting to a sense of resource in your body? So this is somewhat of a kind of black belt practice because it's very triggering to the system to read these scary headlines. And perhaps you're even experiencing symptoms. You're reading these scary headlines and you're experiencing symptoms. That would be a really good time to focus on resource. So for me, I was in quarantine for whatever it was, 4 or 5 days, because I was potentially exposed to coronavirus. And during that time, um, I was doing a lot of this. I was connecting with people a lot online, but I was staying informed about what was going on, and I had a sore throat. So it turned out that the person whose test I was waiting on came back negative, which is great news. But during that time, I could have spent that time being really freaked out. But instead, I have this practice of resource. So if I started to feel worried, I could come to this. I could come to this experience of, oh, here's my feet, or here's a feeling that feels good in my stomach or in my face. And I could just keep returning to a experience of resource, even in the midst of that uncertainty. Now, just because that person's test came back negative doesn't mean that the uncertainty is over, right? Like we have no idea what the coming weeks and months are going to bring. And I think it's this opportunity right now to really decide, how do we want to meet this crisis? And resource is a great option. Being able to tune into this sense of safety within our own bodies, this feeling of resource right here, right now, even in the midst of we don't know what's going to happen. It's sort of a superpower, and it's one that any of us have access to if we practice it. And so it can be as simple as what we just did. And I want to invite you right now to come back to resource. So I know we're not doing the closed eyed practice at this point, but we can keep practicing. So as I'm speaking, continue to bring your attention to something that feels good in your body, something that feels safe, something that feels neutral, something that feels grounded. Letting that be the most important thing. Letting your experience of feeling resourced and safe in the moment be the most important thing. Because then from there, everything actually becomes so much easier, becomes so much simpler to engage, so much simpler to know what our next right step is. So, I want to have an opportunity for any questions about the resource practice. So, if you have a question about the resource practice, just go ahead and type it into the comments. That I'm not as familiar with the comments on YouTube, but I'll do my best. But as far as Facebook, you just put it in the comment. If you have any questions about doing this resource practice, either in formal meditation or in action. And as we continue on, I invite everyone to keep connecting and reconnecting with that feeling of resource in the body. Just give a moment, see if there's any questions. And it's also okay to send me questions later. Okay. So, this is a really practical tool for creating a sense of safety, for cultivating resource, for calming our systems, for regulating. A really simple, basic tool. And it's also very powerful. So, I encourage you to start using it and just dive in and make it your own. But I also want to talk a little bit about unconditional safety. And this goes into something a little less personal. This is a little less about a sort of somatic psychological tool, and it gets in a little bit more into sort of an absolute realm. But I think it's important. I think it's important that we hold both because ultimately, what we really are is safe no matter what. And we can tune into that right now. So we identify with what we are as being our thoughts and our emotions. I feel this, I think this, I am that. Most of us spend most of our lives moving through the world completely identified with our thoughts and our emotions, and we believe that's what we are. And so when something like the coronavirus occurs, what we are is being seriously threatened. Same thing if, we go through a divorce, what we are is being seriously threatened, or we lose our job. What we are is being seriously threatened. And when we live totally identified with our thoughts and our emotions, there's just danger constantly, coronavirus or not. There's just danger, danger, danger all the time. And we find that we have to constantly be protecting this self, trying to make the emotions feel better and the thoughts be less scary, which ultimately creates more scary thoughts and more uncomfortable emotions because we're in resistance all the time. Because being in the world and the total uncertainty of what it is to be human, again, during times like this or any time, is kind of a constant assault to that self that just wants to feel safe and comfortable. It's not comfortable to be human. And if what we need is to constantly be okay in terms of what's happening outside of us and how our emotions and thoughts are responding to it, then we're going to be in for a lot of struggle. And so we want to be able to connect to something bigger, something unconditional, something that isn't just our thoughts and our emotions. And so, how can we begin? We can begin by just asking the question, from where is this thought arising? And where is it disappearing into? Or you can even ask that question about the words I'm saying right now. Here they are, they're arising, and they're passing. Where are they coming from? And where are they going? What is that? Right now, you can tune into a sensation in your body. Maybe it's the resource you're paying attention to. Maybe it's just your breath. It arises and it passes. Where is it coming from and where is it going? Can you, even just a little bit, start to reside there? So, whatever that is that my voice is arising from and passing back into, that's not going anywhere. That's not getting the coronavirus. That's not going bankrupt. What is that? So, go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to start to let go of effort, of trying, of doing, and notice what's left. Wide open, unlimited, unconditional, spacious, still. And arising within that is this thought, is this sensation, is this sound. What happens if instead of contracting around every arising, drop down to the sandy bottom that it's all coming from and going to? Unconditional safety, because this cannot be threatened, because this is not made of your thoughts and your emotions. There's nothing you have to do to find this, it's just there. It's never not been. So these are options for you. If what you're needing in the moment is to just quickly create a sense of safety, these options are actually both available to you. You can use some self to create resource, right? So the mind comes online and says, I'm going to find something in the body that feels safe and I'm going to focus there. So there's there's a meditator that is choosing to practice, that is choosing to meditate on this sense of resource, of safety in your body. So that's a beautiful option that I 100% recommend that you work with in a formal way and that you work with throughout your day. But then there's also this other kind of resource that doesn't require the meditator, that doesn't require you find something in your body that feels good. It actually only requires recognizing, waking up to what's already present, to that which is unchanging, and that you are part of. So, this sandy bottom that I was talking about, where everything's arising from and passing back into, that's also you. And it's not a place to get to, an insight to attain. It's not a experience to cultivate. It's you, available always and unconditionally. And one way to quickly connect to that deep knowing is to just ask, where is this sound arising from? Where is it passing back to? Where is this sensation arising from and where is it going when it passes? Where does this collection of thoughts and images and words that congeal together to create a me come from? And where does it vanish into? And so, in the midst of intensity, in the midst of uncertainty, to be able to recognize that you are absolutely 100% connected to unconditional safety. And I would say also unconditional love, universal love, absolute love. It's a really different way to move through this experience we're all going through. So I gave you two ends of the spectrum, kind of, really practical and then a little more also practical, but kind of in a different way. So we have a couple more minutes if there are any questions from anybody about anything I've said, um, or any thoughts that you want to share. You can do that now. And as you're maybe typing a question, I'll just make a few quick announcements. I'll be doing this again next week. So this class will be virtual again next week. And um, I'm also doing tomorrow, I'm doing a Zoom workshop at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard. And so if you'd like to join that, just DM me your email address and I'll add you to the list. Or if you're joining on YouTube, um, I believe that my website is in the description, and you can contact me through that and or through social media. and I'll get you on the list. I'll send you the information for that workshop that's happening tomorrow. It's free. So everything, it's all donation based. So everyone's welcome to join. And yeah, I've also been letting people know that I'm doing mini coaching sessions for no charge right now for people that are needing extra support. So you can reach out to me about that as well. All right. So it looks like there's not any questions right now. Thank you, Jessica. It's so nice to connect with you. So before we say goodbye, we'll just take a moment to seal off our time together. So go ahead and close your eyes. And what I want you to do is just touch in to the fact that we've got people from all over the world sitting here doing this together. Some are doing it live and some will do it later, but that we're practicing together and that we're together in this human thing, all of us, and that we all have capacity to find safety within our own bodies, and that we all have the capacity to drop into that unconditional safety. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. And yes, I am out of jail. It's really nice. I took a walk today. I still avoided people, but just because, social distancing. Um, but yeah, I'm appreciating you all for joining me for this. This is fulfilling for me and feels good for me to to be able to offer this and to be able to connect with you in this way. So thank you for being in community with me. And like I said in the description, there's links to more information. And then if you care to make a donation towards this, there are links for making donations. And get in touch with me if you'd like to join the Zoom call tomorrow. So far, I think we have like over 30 people joining. It'll be a really lovely time to connect with community, to do some meditation, and to get some support around anything you're needing specific support with. I'll be offering, you know, personal guidance to people who want it, and generally what will happen is it'll be like one person asking for it but many people that could benefit, so it'll be a nice way of coming together and all supporting each other. um, I think that's about it. I see you and I love you. Take really good care.